There is a heavenly registry or carousel cascord or Shekinah shade for every كل شيء أحصيناه, earthly and heavenly waterward, whether the heavenly ones or the earthly ones, whether the ones that are have reached are worthy to be presented in the desktop in front of Allahi operator, or the lower programs that are not being run at the desktop, or the junk parts of the simulation. All of them have basically this attachment, are basically assigned between Christ and then the Akashic space or the vaginal womb space of the hell, or where the mind is prepared, or the electrical current is given, so that a program, a coded program, can be written on that package of electrical shock. But the apes that worship the sacred geometries and sacred sounds, they are only worshipping that electrical power, although they claim that they are the good feminists, but in fact they are actually looking for power. But the real feminine part is actually the part that is supporting the program, because the program is actually power free. It is completely purpose centered. That's the very delicate state of love. That's the Christian and Islamic love that doesn't exist in the penis worshipping feminist Jewish feminists of the Pharaoh, Zionist ones I'm talking. The Talmud reading trash. This Christ Karimi computer carousel, or Isahi Imam Mubin, or Imam, part of it is mother, or Imam, or sea, the ocean, are all coming from the same part. Imam, or the mother part of and Bina means understanding. Imam Mubin means the clear Imam, or the clear Sultan. We also call him as Sultan Mubin. Whether you look at 36:12 or 27:21, they are both talking about Christ and the name of Christ. And so obvious or distinguished Imam, like once you see the king of the earth, not king of the heaven, but the king of the earth, that king of the heaven has assigned to become the king and the light of the earth, or the whole lower cone or hell. Once you see, then that is obvious or understandable for everybody. You don't need to have a PhD degree in to understand love. And so once you see Christ, then you know who is the king and who is a queer Khers Krishna es Kharach. And so Imam Yam Yam means ocean, sea. Imam means ocean of knowledge. In Islamic neighborhood, the one that is Imam of knowledge, we call it ocean of knowledge. We call him Imam, or which means mother. And so Imam Mubin is or the ocean of the Bina of our understanding, or the ocean of the sweet waters, or the ocean of meaning milk, or Sultan, that is obvious and is emanating, distinguishing, distinguish between darkness, or dark breaker, is Sahih Imam, or Sultan Mubin, or Imam Mubin, is in golden tandem connection with Mother Hari Hell Hole, or Emra'at. through, and so this tandem connection between Christ and his hellish bride, not the heavenly bride but the hellish bride, and this bondage that I already mentioned is happening through the 19 Surah 74 verse 13, the 19 blessed mountain jinns, or Barakna Mersa or Al-Qura of 34:18, of Mersaha 11:41, when the ark of Noah after the flood docks down or anchors back from heavenly hovering and flying once the earth is being resetted and purged from Samadic psychopaths and whatever garbage and filth that we have that are now running the Kremlin and Xi Jinping empire of American Barack Obama with the trumpetic so that is Mersaha of docking down or anchoring of Noah's Kaaba, Kibotos, cube or ark, standing, and so 19 blessed mountains is standing. وَجَعَلَ فِيهَا in her ravasi, rosi, risen, ra'as in Arabic, rise in English or in Persian, or we have it also in Hebrew. And here in 41:10 we will later on look at it in details, but it says that, and we placed in hellhole or in the garden of Matthew 21:33, ravasi, fixed poles or pegs that stabilize her from her fawqaha or faqaha or faqaha, from top. Faq is coming from this fawq that we have it also in Hebrew, and so that is how Mother Earth or the Gailani Gap is completely stabilized and campaigned, or from the Qura and the Zahir at the back of her. They are these are at the back of the membrane or the bubble that is, or the these are the ones that are actually working at in a dimension that the viruses that are inside the recycle bin of the Ramarat, the Nazi viruses that are running the Nazi eagle at the back of the American dollar, or Egel or Eagle or Agol, they cannot see it, that is just mentioned here, and so they are the ones that make sure that sack of sickness remains until God says, all right, it is time to thread the winepress of the wrath. And so they are also known as the 19 blessed Qudur or Rasiyat, or the bowls or the mini turtles that are getting the Gaia or the Hari Helhor or the Emra'at or the mother of the Alpha to Omega, or depths, become stabilized at the by means of these bowl turtles. We will talk about them more in detail. And they are actually 70 cubitahi arc anchors, or tendons, or selsalat we call them, or zabaniyat, or fire petals. And so anytime that the heavenly ones that are screaming want to go out of the lake of the burning fire, they just petals them and then lick them down, and then they go back into their nirvanic hellhole. there is no way to run, no run out of that nirvanic state. You're just you have chosen it, now bear with your filthy, cheap ontological choice. You don't deserve Allah and Christ. It's better for you to stay Mardini because of participating in Mahish Asura or Bagare Mardini. Mardini upon you and Mardini upon every one of those monsters and the victims of the monsters that were participate in, or Ravana Mardini, or the retards that read Ramayana and think even about death of Ravana Christ. Anyway, these 19 ones are the tendons, and they are the anchors that connect the Malik of hell or Christ to hell, and that's how left hand of Allah becomes a plane, so that right hand of Allah, Ketay Sejil of Surah 21 verse 104, the left hand, God says that the left hand of mine, like a property paper that belongs to my right hand or to my Malkizedeki and Malik, can be twisted and wrapped like a property paper or sejil by means of my right hand. And that's how easily Allah has given his left hand to his right hand to do whatever he wants with the left hand. And so this bonding is happening by means of the 19 we also read it in 1 Kings 7 or 6, I think, about the 20 mountains of the Galilee garden. We will look at it, the mountains that Hiram have been working among them. And that is why we see tandem pair of rain floods of water. I just love this verse. You wanna this verse is awesome. It is just a condensed, it's one of the super condensed and rich wine verses from Bet HaKaram. Along with filthy foam, Zabadarabian or Akashic Kafnosi Akashic Ashtrei. And so we see the tandem pair of what? Of program and disk space. And so the masculine mentality places its bets on disk space, but the Islamo-Christian feminine spirit is actually saying that, like, the intelligence of the God or the love of the God, and then the purpose of the programmer that has programmed is actually dedicating the amount of hard space. So no matter how much hard space you occupy, that is irrelevant of the amount of that your virus or your parasitic virus is bug, your Buddhic bug in the system is trying to devour, to occupy bigger and bigger amount of power and electrical charge. But what is important is the operator, because he can control the entire system. Or tandem pairs of angelically supervised and bird-eye watched Deva Devi Jinn tribes, Ummat, or angelically supervised and bird-eye watched, و من یوزه منها من امرنا نوزه من عذاب السعیر, or Devi Jinn tribes that were stone carrying, building up كل بنا بنایینگ. For Solomon, he's civil engineer. His top Galilee ground or 2-3 temple. Above Malakut membrane mansion or heavenly home or lively bright building or Imra'ah or Omrani Amarat of 1 Corinthians chapter 3 verse 16. According to 2 of his months-long whirlwindy inhalers that were coupled in tandem with a months-long of his whirlwind exhalers. 4 diving stone carving خشب stone carvers or the jinns that were working for him, or the divers in the Dead Sea, and bringing basic mind mod for making the Amarat or Amaras, Imrani Amarat, or the Temple of Life. Diving stone carvers in Akashic ashtray or image, or Akash means axe or means inverted, or Galifat or inverted, toppled down a space of Galilee garden, or we call it also the Lebanoni white and silver. We have the Jabal or the Mount Vales of white and silver and black, Mount Marut mounts of mortal mud in Prithvik pit. And so let's see where the sentences started. These sentences started. Or tandem pairs of in for according to that were coupled in tandem with a months-long for doing this, while Solomon, his civil engineer, and so Hiram is actually the technician that is supervising over the masonically working slaves or the jinn whales, or the carvers from the navel belly, from pure nahs, or from cobra copper, or from mind mud that gather it and then bring it, while Solomon, his civil engineer, who has seated at the Bismillah back of commanding computer room, or Christ Karimi Sultan, or Christ Karimi Ladoniram, Ladon Ramesh lays down the becoming blueprints, like a civil engineer that is blueprints of Allahi, that Allahi architect has predestined qazahunna in Surah 41:12 for 7 holy smoke, yasminahi smoke or dukhan of heaven. And this part is happening in eternity. And so Solomon is like the civil engineer that is observing at what Hiram is doing. That's why Solomon sends Hiram to Galilee, or Shalak or Shelik or Shelik Hiram out of the Eden into trash landscape of time where we are, and or in the Dead Sea. And then in the Dead Sea, he is working to basically getting the material, the raw material or the raw packages to go there, so that the of the power plant, and so the pipelines of the power plant are connected, so that the operating system can used, and then after blessing, that's why all the carvings are done outside of the temple, and then the tools and the shovels and everything will be left out there. And so once the materials are brought, then the carvings, then Allah blesses, allows, sends blessing upon Christ, and then Christ alchemizes them. They go through that mind packages, or the mind mud, or the raw material, or the nahasi, nothing is blessed. And then once it is blessed, then it is allowed to, that's how the barakna is happening. This barakna, in the same way that these 19 hell angels are blessed, and the hell angels that are made from iron, that are just stabilizing the entire field of white and silver and black, the mud, or hama masnoon, or maruti mud. So once it is blessed, then it is allowed to go in to be used inside the temple according to the interior design that we will read about that. And so both parts, the exterior design and the interior design, we will look at it in the witness. But again, all the carvings and the sounds and then the scratching and cuttings and all of those things, the noisy garbage, slavey things will be done outside, so that it doesn't perturb the Shekinah presence of Allah King inside the Christ the Karimi vineyard temple. And then according to Ghazahana of Allah, they are entered, and then they become the Yasminahi or Jasminahi Dukhan, or the halal holy smoke. And 7 eggy flatulences of Sahasrara Suresh, it remains outside. That's for again, that's part of the foam or the scum or the kafnos or the jaffa that was mentioned in 1317. That is how we read about pomegranatically protected paradise palace. Okay, pomegranatically protected paradise palace, because the pomegranates are dropped, are malated or melted or juiced or squeezed and then juiced into golden bells or iron bells around the shawl of Isahi Melchizedeki priest. That at his heart has the God. That there are 3 layers. We are here talking about a little bit of interior design. That was the tendoning for the exterior, where the tandem coupling happens between the computer and at the hardware level, with the energy packages and the flatulence part. And now we're looking at the software part, or at the bride part, or the Anahata temple, or Nahid, or the Venus star, or there are many names for it, but let's focus at there are 3 layers of created love light that are put on top of each other for the interior design, while love lordy fire or noon or of 1681 is on top of Nuron Ada Nur. We will look at it on top of all of them, cow and creation, that together becomes the cow creation. like the computer, the desktop, the programs, different layers, and all of that. There is no left and no right, and no east and no west. La sharqiyya wala gharbiyya. Okay, there is no right hand for the pen, because noon and qalam wa ma yastarun, and so qalam or raqiyya or the pen or kalamus, or the finger or the neck of God or the finger of God or the trunk of tree of life. It is not slanted, it is not oblique, it is just completely vertical, and we call it the higher horn or the right hand of the Christ in Revelation 1, or the higher horn cornea qarniya of Christ that is looking to Yazdan Rahman, Izad Yazata Yasin Yazdan, Aisha Yasha'ing Allah, the only one God, La ilaha illa Allah, all hymn to Allah, Shabach Subhan Sabaman Sapaus Tabad Yazdan Rahman. In symmetrical arrangement of the cylindrical shaft of lampstand, or straight salam pass of Allah to Isahi, lens, arc, or third eye, or salam spring trunk way of Salsabila or Salam Sabil. This is the this is the trunk. This is one of the names of the spine, or the higher horn of the cow Christ, or the spine of the Mahisha Syria, or the conduit of the spring of life. That is or what we call Surah 68, or the pen, or the Rakiya, and the name of the Rakiya is the Salsabil, or a spring of life. That is this Salsabil that comprises of Salam, Sabil, or health pass, the pass that blessing and health comes from Creator, and then Surah Isahi terminal reaches to earth, is the boulevard that is mentioned in Revelation 22:2, the boulevard of the city of God, the main boulevard. And so this boulevard is, or this highway, or this conduit, or this Salam Sabi, or the center of the holy hoop, is there is only one person, the one soul, that one ruh that is allowed to go back and forth like an elevator in that. And who is that? We call him Ha'umahi, Homa bird of Zoroastrian Magi's, or the heavenly Homa bird. And who is the Homa bird? Is the Christ, or the Melchizedek. And the rest of the creation are in swirling. That's how you go into the different levels of that interior design of the temple for getting to Beitul Mamur, or to different levels for praying Yazdan Rahman. But that shaft, it is where the مرغ کوه تور تویی عشق تویی. We will look at the Master Rumi's poet dedicated to Christ, but مرغ کوه تور, or the bird of the mountain of Tur, or Taha, or Tur al-Huda, or Tur, و تور و کتاب مستور فی رق منشور والبيت المعمور والسقف المرفوع والبحر المسجور إن عذابك ربك لواقع, something like that. And so we are now looking at the interior design part. And so Tur or Asura 52, or the Mount Tur Temple Tur, or the mountain of God, or the Sinin, that Tur, or the central axis of the Tur, we call him the spring of life, or Sabil, or Sabil, or the path of bird pass, that in the bird nest, that the biggest bird that goes up and down in that is Christ. No one else is allowed to pass. That's the boulevard, that's for Christ. The most holy, or Aqdas al-Quddus, or the most holy, or holy of the holies, or the inner sanctuary, or highest of the holy levels, or Dobri, behind of veil, or Modebir, or Modabbarat, that is also mentioned in Holy Quran 7:9 verse 5. Will bring also later on more quotes of the same place. In Torahic terminology, we call it Debir, or oracle, or midbar, or the holies of the holies. We also call it as Modabbarat Amran, or Modabbar, where a tadbir of Allah, or the command of Allah, or the command center, where the command of Allah, Qitr, or crown, or Qadir, the crown is like a cup. And then in Arabic we call Qudur, or Qadar as a cup, or Qudrat, or Qutrat. We will look at it. And so that means, or Qadr in French, or Qadr in Persian, or that means the frame, that is basically encompassing the creation and the cow all together in by Allah. And so that is the crown of life that is mentioned in Revelation 3, or the Qadr, Allah Qadir, crown, is Amring, Modabbarat Amran. And so they are the ones that tadbir and carry the commands of Allah, the 24 elders plus the 4 Israfil seraphims, is where Ajna veil of 2 petals, or the eyelid of Logesi Hekmat, or Logesi Chokma, or Arsh pupil carrying Isahi iris. Okay, so the Ajna, or the third eye, is the Christ. The third eye of the temple is Christ. And so the third eye is the only way that at the top of the Sabil, or the path of the Sabil, that salam of Allah comes, blessing of Allah comes into creation, opens to Allah. And so Arsh, or cruise, or kursi, or pupil, or pane, or panum, or penuel, or panah Elohi, is being carried, Yahmelu Arsh, or carried, or ringed by Isahi iris, around that. Or Qaus, we call it, Revelation 4:3, Qaus, or the 4-corner arc of Ikhlas. And so the 4-corner arc, or is called Ikhlas, or class, or clash, or Achillas, that is Asura, means pure brokenness, that is complete surrenderance to Allah. And so resides along with binahi, I form of 4 living beings, or zende, zunde, zun in Greek or in Persian, beings. والملك على أرجائها. And so أرجائها, who is the arja of Allah? The 4 living beings that are carrying the Rajul Arja. And who is the Rajul Arja? That is Christ, or Isahi Iris, around Allahi face, or Allahi Adasiya, or Allahi pupil, or cruz, or kursi, or throne. 4 fire serving and surfing and serfanting, or 4 Israfil, surf, saraf, serve, are all coming from the same root. Seraphim, surfing. Not only some serpents are crawling on the earth, some serpents are actually up there serving God, or nar or noon serving. Where was the noon? Noon serving, fires serving to the noon, and receiving noon of Allah, and sending it down to us. That's how the Salam Salsabil, or the spring, is being filled with mercy, and the glory and grace reaches to lower levels. Fire serving and surfing serpents, 4 Israfili, seraphims, sarraf, Israfili, with 3 rows of eye covered wings, 3 by 2, 6 wings of up inward looking and down outward looking eyes. And so 4 cedar poles of acacia was another. That's why we have 4 cedar poles of acacia around Surah Ikhlas, or around the Surah of surrenderance, or around Christ. Christ is the most egoless and neck clashed, ikhlast, klasos, achillas, in English, Hebrew, Persian, all together, pure brokenness. And so these 4 cedar poles that are around the ark, or around the surrenderance to God, or ark of God, are the 4 seraphims. In Islamic theology, we call the seraphims are Israfil, and plus the 4 times 7 minus 1, because these 4s are like a ring together, and so we have the and on each one of them we have 7 times 7 elders, and so once we have 4 of them wing to wing conjoined together, then it becomes 4 times 7 minus 1. Or 4 times 6 minus 1 plus 1, and then becomes 24. Elder almonds, or paracletic prophets, or 24 golden crowns, thrones, eyeballs, or qudur or rasiyat. We have it also here, not only at the lower level, but also we have the higher eyeballs, or the thrones, or the crowns, the 24 golden crowns of Revelation 5:8 or Isaiah 6:6. 24 elder hours, 24 charcoal chambers, maharib, or Revelation 5:8, Isaiah 6:6, who are being carried upon the 8 hands of the lowest wing ring row of Ezekiel 1 and 10:21, or Holy Quran 69:17, and so 4 times 2 becomes 8. The 4 living beings become 8 because they have eyes inside and outside, inward and outward, upward and inward, downward. And so that's how we reach the 4 living beings are like doubled, or not, or each one of them are 2. These are not anthropos. That's why understanding this is beyond the imagination of an anthropos, because we are one-eyed beings, but we have two-eyed beings like Christ. We will talk about Zulqarnain in detail. And galgaling beings, or qulquling, or qaling. And what do they qala, or what do they say? What do they say? They say holy, holy, holy is Allah Almighty in English, but properly they say Hagios, 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 Hagios is Allah. Or they say Yahuwah al-Haq Ta'ala, Yahuwah al-Haq Ta'ala, Yahuwah al-Haq Ta'ala, Yahuwah al-Haq Ta'ala. And that's how they say it. Yet here it has to be -4, not -1. And so 4 concentrically virile wording or folk or turning Tarshishi wheels, 4 Israfili seraphims. When you are talking about currency exchange, in even in Sanskrit language we use saraf or sarafi, and or serving or surfing. And so anything that serves or serves, that is basically the root word of seraphims. And serpent or serpent, or basically galgaling at that level, not on the earth but on the heavenly sky, circling with wings tip to tip touching. That's why we have the 4 wings, that like we have the 4 junction of these wings. And so each one of them are carrying 7 elders in that way. But again, then we have the 4 conjunctions, and that's how we reach to 4 times 7 minus 4, 24. I elders are seated at one of the 3 wing rows of these cedar poles or acacia poles. And so and altogether these 24 elders, they become the 24 elder hours of the heavenly day, or 12 months of the Edeni year, whose panah, tane, faces are like lion, the 4 Israfili seraphims. Adamahi anthropos, palm, like the palm with palm gravings. Flying eagle, manshur, cherub, karub, carbon, distresser, or carb. These are all coming from the same root, means heat, fire, crab, or solar cow, or grabbing, heat grabbers. They are like the currency exchange. They have eyes on top and down, and so they are like they become the conduits and the fluxes that they see Allah, and they receive the blessing and the Zoroastrian Nar of Allah, Nurun Allah Nur, and then they disperse it or transfuse it or transfer it down into higher ontological levels lower than the desktop where the operator is, architect is working with his computer. And so are like the lion and Adama, Anthropos, like human, have the face of lion, human, flying eagle, and Karub, Carb, Carboni, firecraft, solar cow. That's one of the names of the cow, is also Karub, crab or carbon, ox, that we have it because of the fat or the heat. Who kharabs or harubs, who fights the cursed coldness with fire dissipation or serving, seraphing. Seraphing here is the Sanskrit of the seraph or serpent, serpenting. The charcoal, chisel, zogal, jachel, jachel, we call it in Persian jachel or jagal or zogal. Zogal and of the Persian and Hebrew are one, and so and that's how they receive live charcoals, and then they put it on the mouths of the prophets so that they don't say any lie or falsehood, and that's how their proclamations or kalamat are purified. Ezekiel 10:2-14, Revelation 4:7, or 2 Samuel 22:9. For inside outside leaking creatures can reach to full fire flux capacity or serving capacity or fire exchanging capacity by drawing, look, or labbaking, or lying eye touch, کشیدن, قشع or kasha, or in Hebrew we call it kasha or kasha, or we call it in Arabic, I forgot to write the Arabic one here, kasha, like yakshi or yaksha. So kashidan, kashid, kashad, yaksha, or kasha, or kashidan, eye touching. No one touches God. No one. Wala tamsasha nurun ala nur. We call it in Surah 24, verse 35. Wala tamsas. يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو تمسسه نار, and it doesn't touch the nar, but because of the vicinity to the nar, ولا تمسسه نار, or nur, or noon, or the source of the love, and so because of their close vicinity, they lay eye or eye touching. That's precisely the English equivalent synonym of the eye touching. And so there are mistranslation in Isaiah 6:2, no one touches God, or God doesn't draw anything on himself or wrap himself with angel or Christ or anything, or or what the mistranslation that we have in Revelation 3:21. They do kasha or keshidan or draw, or they follow, or they stretch gaze to God, or they shalach, shalik, salak, charging catching fire, feeling, Ezekiel 1:10 verse 2, or Isaiah 6:2, or as we read before in Holy Quran, Surah 69 verse 14. And so now once they reach to full fire flux capacity, to the maximum capacity that catching, feeling, malaing or mamloing or malaing or catching fire, feeling from Salsabil river pass. And what is the name of Salsabil? One of the names of the Salsabil, or the spring of life, or the shaft, or the boulevard, that is the highway only for the ruh to tanazzalu ala man yasha, and whoever Allah wants sends the ruh, and then ruh comes and then gives the logati lectures, and then goes back up again around Allah and irises around Allahi pupil adasiya. That Salsabil pass, street of Christ, or the right hand or right horn or right cornea of the Christ, is also called Allahu Akbaring fire or Allahu Akbaring river. Ezekiel 10 verse 15, verse 20, verse 22 are all talking about Kabar river or Kabar Nahr, and that Kabar Nahr is the what we call it as Salsabil or Salam pass or Allah Akbaring pass. That not only Salam of Allah comes inside, but also we see in Revelation 5:8. 5:8, I think, yes, in Revelation 5:8 we see that these 24 charcoals or thrones or the crowns or the 24 elder hours with Zogal or Jezal or Jachal, Zogal or Jachal, putting that's part of the Adam Anthropos is related to the elders. And so not only Salam comes down, but also we see in Revelation 5:8, for instance, that the prayers of the saints or the incensah and rozahi prayers or the Allahu Akbars that brothers and sisters in the Great March of Return are throwing and breaking the silence of the end time earth that Dracula has made more than 80% of it atheists and scientists and global warming believers and black hole educated potatoes that we call them PhDs and those kind of things. Those Allahu Akbars in the Great March of Return by the fence, those Allahu Akbars or those prayers of the saints are what the 24 elders drop, send. We will look at it in detail. And that's the qatre or the incense and the prayers of the saints that go all the way up from the four Israfil seraphims to be offered to Allah. And that is happening up and down through the Kabar corridor or Salsabili shaft or Rakiya or pass, Sabil pass, Shabil, who stretches straightly between top pupil, Penuel, throne, seat, face of Yazdan Allah, and his Isahi Aura or iris or nimbus or shekainahi sheda, or what we have it coming from precisely the same root, rajul, foot, or which means right hand. Again, there is no left or right, okay, but when it says that at the right hand of the father doesn't have right hand and the left hand, okay, it is at the underneath, at the immediate underneath of the father, that means the right hand, and then we have the lower ones. And so at the rajul arja'aha, and that is the arja'aha, or also we sometimes call it in Holy Quran, and what is hawlaha, what is around Allah, who is the kursi and throne, occupied with blessed, that has blessed the creation, cow creation. And so basically we send the best of the creation, or the cow Christ, crown of the creation that Christ has created for Allah, to goes all the way up, and then he is the arja of Allah, or arja of the throne of Allah. Again, it is one, or a rainbow around Allah. We call it also Vama Hawla Arshaha of, I think, Surah 24. Let's take a look here. Surah 40, verse 5, I think. Surah 40, verse 5. No, here, Surah 40, verse 7. الذين يحملون العرش ومن حوله يسبحون بحمد ربهم, or 1,000 times higher than them, or their source. And so who is ومن حوله, who is حوله, أرجاءه, or رجل around Allah, and those that are around it, or one, in another way we can look at it, and the one that is around it, and that one is being carried by 8 other ones, or by 8 or by 4 seraphims, and so that is basically the Christ. And so Rajal Arja'aha of Surah 69:17 is actually the same feet when we say that God doesn't have a foot, of Isaiah 6:2, okay, but the foot of God, foot of Allah, is the ring of Allah, or is the rainbow of Allah, or I think we have it Val Malaku ala Arja'aha, Revelation 4, the nimbus, I think Revelation 4:3, or around that, 4:6 maybe. Who is behold by middle wing ring, and we have 3 wing rings of the 4 seraphims in 3 levels, each one 2 wings. They have 6 wings, and so the higher eye row is only looking upward, and then and that is also covered downward, and then the middle ring row is upward and downward, and that is keshaying the feet of Allah, or the howl of Allah, or the rainbow, transfigured rainbow of Allah, that is Ruhi, rainbow around Allah. Here we see that Rafi'ud Zul Arsh, this is Arsh, and then Yulqiya Ruh, and the Ruh is the Christ, that is Hawla Hu Rabb, or Hawla, or around Arsh. or the adasiyat, or the pupil, and or the iris around the pupil. These are all talking about the same. And so the middle row is beholding the Christ, or love lamp, that when goes up becomes the ring around Allah, or the lebush, or the aura around Ahura Mazda. And then the lower wing row of these three of the four seraphims becomes the 24 elder hours. And then once the Christ comes down, the bird that goes up and down in the Salsabili shaft, he can come into eschaton from the protos, that's the protos, all the way up closest, without touching, close to the God. We see how close later on. But then he comes down. That's how high Christ goes to receive the 7 seal scroll al-Musa'at in Qaba Qawsain, or less than that. We will look at it, and then Christ can come into eschatos and to the hardcover, and then come into the form of the transfiguration, or the Deidur disc, or the carousal countenance, or the salam screen. And so Christ bounces up and down. That's why we call it in Zoroastrianism as the Homa bird, or the Morghe Kohe Turtoi, or the you are the blessed bird of mountain of God. And so, and that's why تحمله الملائكة التابوت فيه السكينة, and Christ is the tabut, or the ark, inside whom is the Shekinah dwelling of Allah, or the third eye that can open to Allah crown chakra of the creation. And then this third eye is being carried by the malaik of the throat chakra. And so these three chakras, or these three centers together, becomes what we call it as the holy of the holies. And then after these three levels, we have the middle body, and then we have the lower, and then we will talk about that. But again, this part of the throat chakra, and so that is how we have the keter, and then we have the chokma, or the hikmat, and then we have the bina, or bayan, or bayana, that is happening there, and then utterance. And then we have the lower parts. We will look at it. And so the middle wing ring of the four living beings is beholding up and down wherever the Christ goes, bounce up and down. They are keshaying, or qashaying, yakshaying to the Christ. And then or as we look at, there are the four fingers that are in touch with Christ, the fire finger, in a way that we can look at it that way. And while their lowest wing ring comprises of like 8 wings of Adam-like hands of Ezekiel 10:21. That's where the Adam-like hands are, or Adam-like gazes, or is coming from the 24 elder hours, or the witnesses, or the thrones that are loaded with 24 elderly eyes or hands, is simultaneously doing arsh, pupil, carrying, or beholding, or hovering, or oofing, or uful a'laying, aufing, upping, up, hovering, oof. That's the root word in Arabic, in oof, in Hebrew, in English. Up is coming from there in English. Catching up to Allah he top row and his Isa he middle row, or right hand foot, or Raja Arja, and then we have the 24 elders. And so because these again here we see the four seraphim, Esraphims, and this is the first two verses of Surah Ikhlas, that is Christ, or Clash, or Khlas. And then these two are the second two verses of Covenant of God, or Taslim to God, or clashing, or neck clashing, pure neck clashing for God. That's why Christ is the most transparent and egoless thing in the world of the ego, because he completely, like a third eye, transfuses. That's why not only at the heavenly bottom of the heavenly level, at the eschatos level, but also at the highest level of the heaven, Christ is still the only way to Allah. And then these four rings, four golden rings, they are actually the four seraphim, Esraphims. But again, they are like not only looking up, but looking down. That's why they become 8 in 69:17. Because these four Cedar poles of the Most High, Cedar or Sadratul Muntaha, or Aras in Hebrew, horizon, or 1 Kings 6:36, horizon are extended from top hardcover of Isahi Art Book C as part of the chassis to his bottom hardcover, or eschaton, from Protos to eschaton, are also to his hardcover, and also because they are the four seaboards or river banks of the Salsabil River, or the Allahu Akbaring River, or the Kabir, or the great river of life, the river that is carrying the platform, the programs, the logos, the logat, the language, not the electricity and that kind of things that outside in the power plant. I'm not talking about the pipe room, I'm talking about the holy of the holies. Okay, keep the power plant and the cockroaches in that cracks of the power plant for the 4-foot pharaoh and the owner of the Pentagon and the NATO and the Xi Jinping empire of American Federal Reserve Banking, for those sodomite psychopaths and scientists. But for the holy of the holies, and also because they are the four, and so we can this is what very important to mention here. They are the four river banks. Also, that's why we have the four cups. We will look at it on the shaft, on the minaret, but of the lampstand. But they are the four muazzinun, or muazzin, or the ears and the eyes that these ears or muazzinun. Muazzins, look at if you're a Christian, look up Ma'ad Muazzin, the ones that get the tree of life to fruit into fermental flies, or salah. But these muazzinun are hearing Allahi Hashem, or the capital logos, or the Hashem, or Ism, the tetragrammatani Ism or Hashem of Hologram verse 1 of chapter 1. They are hearing, or they are listening, or catching up, or eye touching, or hearing to that name or word. of a spoken commander, or to the dabir or فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا of 79.5, or dabir, precisely the same thing. They are, these four muazzanun are the mudabbirat amran. Anytime Allah wants the bride to dance, then they get the bride to dance, and so these muazzanun so Mudbiri, Christ Oracle, or Yudabbarul Amr of 10.3 or 13.2, they're all talking about the same Debir of 1 Kings 6.5, okay? And so of God, and also because they would get the entire residence of Isahi Turtiri, temple of God, or Yahuyashai, year of God, or Christ the Karimi, Kaukalak of God, with 24 Edeni elder hours of eternal day in Yawmaddin, to flight, fruits in 12 months of Revelation 22:2, or Holy Quran verse 936, in first holy sacred seasons. Here we have the four sacred, super sacred months that are actually landmarks, milestones of the seasons, and as well into, and so they get it to go into Salah, Seilahing, or what some people translate as lift up your hands, or in that realm you lift up, or you ejaculate out, or you release out your soul into firmamental, your spirit, or your spiritus, or your separios, into a spirit, into a scorching heat, or a correction, or a releasing out into firmamental fluid, and so the tree of life starts fruiting by worshipping Allah cylindrically, counterclockwise. That's why, because of these, Moses orders lingually to build the wordly representation of these four sweet seasons of meaning mansion by means of one. First, for nashat nashid wa nashatat nashtan. That's one of the names of these four living beings, is wal mudabbirat amran. Again, they are the four sides of the dabir, or the holy, they are the four muazzanun of tree of life, and also there are the four nashita, shati, shatta, shatan, that means acacia. In English we call it shoot, acacia shoot, acacia branches of acacia. Acacia in Hebrew is shat'a, shati, shati, nashtan, and nashatat and nashtan. These are the nashits, or bring nashat. They are the bringers of the joy. They are the exchangers, or the surfers of the joy, and then they bring the tree of life into extreme ecstasy of Islam, Christian ecstasy of having Allah. No matter how many times they bomb your churches, or how many fake Muslims and maggoty Christians they make in order to go and murder other people innocently, these are all the people of the jealousy and hatred and the sodomite psychopaths of the Caesarta that are doing it. No matter how many people they have crushed by the loaders and the bulldozers in Saudi Arabia, like Russia, Kuri, or other brothers and sisters that have been martyred, and how many rapes that they have done in Srebrenica, how many massacres in here and there. Now it is time for you that those cries and tears will turn into joy. Nashit means nashat, means extreme joy that you shoot out. without having control on yourself, just like how me and my brother Ali Akhi did. You shoot out, you just ejaculate out like a nightingale, and you start zamar fluting or mazamiring or zamaring or singing, bulbuli zadan, forgot, and then God is happy, bride is happy, Melchizedek is happy, everybody is happy after their reunion together. That is called nasheed or nashat. And so part of the nasheed means the psalm of happiness, and that is what the muazzinin or the four holy spirit or four Israfili seraphims are doing. We call them the four acacia shoots or the four cedar trees of the Sadratul Muntaha, or the most high cedar tree. سالن که counter clockwise was the order, so that cross the 7 borders, and so they come, and these 4, they cross the 7 borders of the 7 sky smoke spirits and bring them to animated, vivacious, fruiting, worshipping, flying, heleling or crescenting around Allahi Son, or collective Hajj in Eden, in Beitul Ma'mur, getting to Raqul Manshur, or Nash, or Jafan Kal Jawab, jubing, collective hajjing, and around Allah. They are represented by 4 copulas or goblets or koppe or koppe or koppe or jobbe. These 4 4 natural fingers or rings, or the rim seals around Messiah, menorah, or the shaft, or this is Salsabil. This is called Salsabil or Raqiya. Erected pen trunk, around Messiah, menorah or candlestick, or lampstands, tomb, chassis, shaft, or yerek, cylindrical firmament, Raqiya, Raq, the same thing, Raqal Manshur, vertically elongated, erected pen, or retrovert watchtower, the higher part of the watchtower. This watchtower is related to the garden, or Purjos, Borj, or the constellation. In a smaller scale and similar to Christ the Karimi cow clock lampstand, these 4 surfing seraphims, or fire serving and exchanging and transfusing serpents, or Karubi, ox, heat, carbon passers, or Nar, Nur, Noon, light, pass terminals. Cedar acacia fingers have 6 branches, and the wings, or qana, or gana, or qanat, or waterway gutters, or the 6 flight feathers, or word wings, or petrux, or prach, and then we have it in Persian parre, petrux, petrus, parre, prach, parach, and farach, farroch, Arabic even, are coming from the same root, in 3 rows, and upon them are nested the 4 times 7 minus 4, just like the 4 with -4, because it is double counted, equal to 24 times 3, 72 yasnahi eyes, or or paracletic pairs, crowns, thrones, with 24 elder, 74 inward outward eyeball bowls, or qudur or rasiyat. These 24 crowns are part of it, are these qudur or rasiyat, or the raised and fixed cups, or the crowns of the gold. 72 live coals, or zoom in zoom out eye almonds, or shakat, or soqe, or saq, or shakat, which means paracletic groomsmen. Okay, forearms sa'ed, witnessing, advocates, shakat, shahid, sahid. At the lowest level of shoulder blade connection to column, or costovertebral connection, or knotted knob, equal palm, balanced saucepan, joint handcuff, or we call it kaftor, kaftor in English, kaftor, or kaffat, or kafu, or kafat, or kafat, captor. Of the 4 living creatures, there are 4 ulul azmi, messengers and the elders of Isahi, logos of Allah, the messengers with the highest level of the willpower and taste for the beauty, for the ultimate beauty. These are they have the highest level of the feminine spirit of the bride of the lamb, because they are the most excited ones. They're the 4 ones. In a Vainahi word way, we can look at male cow Christ, or archive, coffin, collection, or aran, or earning, Iran, Aaron, Iran, or Aryan Air, or Aryan bird nest, Airahi bird nest, who is on their throne, Tyran, Tarana, coming from the same root, Tyran, birding, flying, birding, Tarana, floating raft, boat, seat, Allahi crown, chakra, Yazdani, Keter, Qadir, as the honey, collecting, earning, earring, eyeing, arraying, ajna, third eye, ear, or top heart cover of Messianic moon book, chest of love life, who would open sit, behold, fatah, or fat, Asura 1 and name 1, like Miftah, or Asura 48, Al-Fat, the beer, or openah, the third eye to the crown, or the second openah, point of a straight pass, or characteristic keyhole to God, Nar, Nur, ring, Noon, of Asura 68.1. That's how the pen follows the commands of Allah by or tadbir of Allah, and then allows to his management board of 2 times 2, 24 flying scribes, Sefer Be'aydi Safarad, or these 24 hands of the Ezekiel 10, or hand heart slates, Sohaf and Mukarrame, who are raised, or Mafu and Mutahhare, and raised on the wings, or the or the parach or pare or parach or petrux of the four living beings who are raised on cow clock tower and by four living beings, or bright barare, keraman barare, or charismat conduits, 24 opened eyes or anointed hours, or mobina fathom mobina masters, to get him solar self or Christ to become masturd or kitab mastur or shuttered or yasturund of Surah 68 verse 1, or kitab mastur, or the written book or love line, the written moon book of love life.